I'm Steve Lascalzo, and this is The Way. You're listening to the February 2026 This is The Way podcast Star Wars news update. It seems like Disney's marketing group is starting to pay attention to the more vocal fan base of Star Wars. I say this because after a very lukewarm to cold reception over the beer commercial-like teaser that aired during football's big game, Lucasfilm and Disney decided to release a longer and, frankly, more exciting trailer a week and a half later, the day after President's Day. The shorter one, narrated by Sam Elliott, featured nothing about the upcoming movie story and likely no footage from the movie, but it was meant as a lighthearted and nostalgic nod, except they could have done the same and then pointed to a better and more fully realized trailer offline. Disney's marketing, for whatever reason, did not do that. It's unlikely the trailer released on the 17th was part of the plan from the beginning. But maybe that's a better sign. People complained, and then Disney didn't just hear the complaints, but sought to address them. What a difference from the indifference the House of Mouse has shown over the past several years to Star Wars content. This is The Way podcast released an episode discussing the full trailer on the day that it was released. It's episode 214, a bonus episode. Now, at the time of the recording of this episode, that special episode is still in dispute with Spotify for copyright infringement. We used a clip from The Empire Strikes Back. And then a music group used that same clip, unchanged, mind you, at the beginning of one of their songs that they've posted online. So an algorithm refused to allow our episode, not because it violates Lucasfilm's copyright, but because it supposedly violates the band's copyright for that same clip. Now, our episode is available currently on YouTube, and we have disputed the claim. So until that claim is sorted out correctly in our favor for fair use, YouTube is the only place that you can catch episode 214 of This is The Way podcast.
Well, I'm not sure I have that hardware online.
It's time for me to report Star Wars news released since our last news update podcast. Mid-month, the toy and merchandise machine got going for the new movie The Mandalorian and Grogu, and Jon Favreau had some things to say. He talked with Polygon.com and addressed some of the technical challenges or the challenges of producing the movie, like shooting in IMAX, when they've been accustomed to doing things in the volume for the small screen, streaming. He also addressed the challenge of catering to an audience that has been used to watching from the comfort of their own homes, their couch, their kitchen, on the go. I think I've discussed the Netflix effect before in previous episodes, but if I haven't, allow me to summarize. Lucasfilm is aware that people watch differently than they have in the past. Now, dialogue is more prominent because watching on, say, a phone or a tablet, on a bus, train, in a car, that's a different experience than watching on a big screen TV. Characters now often reiterate plot points, several times, in fact. They are telling instead of showing because people are watching in a different way. It's very different to the way movies and shows have been in the past. Attention spans maybe are something to do with it. Creating an engaging theater experience that people will get to return to more often is more difficult than just throwing money at special effects. Now, Favreau's only been working in Star Wars for about 7 years or so, but he's been involved with Disney longer because of his work in the Marvel franchise, and he was making movies long before that as well. He has seen this change. That technical and script challenge aside, Favreau is addressing where the story is bringing these titular characters, the Mandalorian and Grogu. He acknowledged they're back to using the Razor Crest. Grogu is basically leveled up through training with Luke, and now he's an apprentice Mandalorian as well as a Jedi. Favreau's quote, "Now it's time for Dad to bring him on adventures." The Mandalorian and Grogu is set to release May 22nd of this year. Last month in our news update, I believe I said that it was a fact that the Inquisitor known as the 11th Brother was also Marrok from Ahsoka. At the time, that was all the information that I had available, and the Star Wars Leaks subreddit revealed some marketing for Funko Pop figures, and there's Maul, of course, for the Maul Shadow Lord show that's coming out. There's two versions, one cloaked, one uncloaked. The uncloaked has a double-bladed red lightsaber, and the cloaked has just one-bladed knighted. And then there's Rook Cast. There's a character called Icarus. Might be in the trailer. It's a tattooed Zabrak. Same race as Maul. Then there is a character called the Crow, which is also an Inquisitor. It does not appear to be Marrok, or the character we know as Marrok from the Ahsoka series. But there's also no Marrok Funko Pop, at least yet. It is very confusing because there are contradicting reports. Is Marrok the one that we see in the Tales from the Jedi? If Marrok is the 11th Brother, the Crow, that would add a new layer to the dynamic between Ahsoka and Marrok on the show, because she's the one that killed him in that vignette from Tales of the Jedi. We will see a bit more in the 10-episode run of Maul Shadow Lord when it debuts on April 6th of this year and releases 2 episodes weekly until May the 4th.
Marrok, form up on my wing and wait for my signal.
It appears we have Shawn Levy to thank for Ryan Gosling's joining the Star Wars Cinematic Universe. In an interview with Gizmodo's I09, published late in February, Gosling told Germaine Lucier, the interviewer, that it was Levy's enthusiasm and vision, as well as the script, that convinced him to stop avoiding Star Wars. Gosling was avoiding Star Wars. He also said he's glad he did, because now that he's joined Starfighter, it feels like it's worth the wait, and that it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's refreshing to hear Star Wars actors saying the right things about their projects, even if it is more than a year out. Starfighter doesn't release, though, until May of 2027.
Our newest racer has arrived!
Star Wars gamers. The next big Star Wars game coming from Fuse Games is Galactic Racers, and we're starting to hear more about what kind of racing game this is going to be. The CEO and co-founder of the company, Matt Webster, gave an interview to Games Radar and says the approach is to make it pick up and play, which to me says they've been watching how Epic Games has been doing things. I'm not talking about putting pod racing skins onto a traditional racing game. The company says it's got people working that put out games like Need for Speed and Burnout. Well, now they're setting a game in the Star Wars universe. They're still taking cues from what players seem to want, because they're going to offer customizable vehicles. Yes, they will have cool skins, is what I'm hearing, but modding the pods will also mean altering performance as well, like in those other games. Also, there was a second trailer for the game released at Sony's State of Play presentation mid-month. It talked a little bit about gameplay modes. The official Star Wars website has that trailer embedded in a February 12th article by Kelly Knox, and she mentions a couple planet names like the desert planet of Jakku, the ice planet of Ando Prime, and Lantana, the jungle planet to go along with an acid-ravaged planet, Sentinel-1. She also listed some of the different vehicles that you'll be able to play with: land speeders, skim speeders, speeder bikes, and, of course, pod racers. And you can earn parts, tools, and upgrades for your rides. Now, the protagonist of the story campaign seems to be named Shade. He's racing for Darius Pax of the Galactic League, the racing syndicate of the Outer Rim. This is not an open world game, and it is not a battle royale race game. There seem to be single and multiplayer modes, and the game will ship, so to speak, as a complete experience. If there is DLC, that would be created later. So it's not part of the original plan, at least, but I think we can all expect microtransactions will be part of the launch. And I say beware, because Star Wars hunters shut down within a year of release And there were plenty of microtransaction offerings in that shop from day one.
Introducing the LEGO Smart Play System.
Collectors still have some money left after paying for all those gifts during the holidays? Well, LEGO's website has those smart play sets we mentioned last month in our news update, and then an online post is promising more will be announced March 1st. But there are some regular sets listed as new right now that are worth mentioning as well. The Mandalorian and Grogu's speeder bike for just $10, available now, set 75436, 58 pieces, comes with both the Mandalorian and Grogu with a satchel sidecar for the speeder bike, for the little green guy, and then there's a blaster pistol accessory for the big guy. There's a clone shock trooper mech for $15, available now, set 75448, 151 pieces, comes with a posable mech with a clone shock trooper minifig you can place inside. There's Grogu's homestead for $20, available now, set 75443, 107 pieces, comes with a posable version of Grogu that's different from the usual minifig. You really have to take a look at it to understand. There's a catapult for a Sorgan frog and a fireplace with food items for him to cook. Siege of Mandalore Battle Pack for $23, available now. Set 75449, 116 pieces. 2 Mandalorian Super Commandos and 2 332nd Clone Troopers with a Star Wars speeder and a barricade that seems to include a Lego stud shooter. Cobb Vanth Speeder for $35, also available now. Set 75437, 207 pieces. Comes with Cobb Vanth in Boba Fett's armor, but it is Cad Bane, not Boba Fett, joining him in the set for a showdown. And there is a speeder with a hidden compartment, too. New Republic X-Wing Starfighter. It's the first one of our listings that is in pre-order. It ships April 1st, 2026 for $70. It is set 75460, 558 pieces. It's blue and gray, has 4 stud shooters, 1 on each wing, and comes with Colonel Ward, Carson Teva, and a New Republic astromech. 3 inches tall, 12 inches long, and 11 inches wide. The Mandalorian and Grogu Allies and Villains set is $40, available April 26th, 2026. It is set 40856, 661 pieces, all characters. These are Brickheads styles, 5 separate characters. You get the Mandalorian, Grogu, Colonel Ward, an Anzellan, and an Imperial Remnant Snowtrooper. There's an Anzellan starship for $75, also in pre-order now, shipping on April 26th, 2026. Set 75445, 701 pieces. Comes with Grogu and 2 Anzellans that can fit in the cockpit or in the main compartment. Not built for fighting. There's no stud shooters on this one. Just like the little guys, it's small. 3 inches tall, but 9.5 inches long and 5.5 inches wide. Grogu, Mandalorian Apprentice set for $130, available April 26, 2026, currently in pre-order. Set 75446, 1,200 pieces. This is a centerpiece figure that stands over 8 inches tall when assembled. Then there's the new Razor Crest in pre-order now, $150. This will ship on April 26th. Set 75447, 930 pieces. There are 5 Lego Star Wars characters. The Mandalorian with a blaster pistol and jetpack, an Imperial Remnant Stormtrooper with a blaster, Colonel Ward, Zebarelios, and a Grogu Lego figure. Now it seems like you can fit 2 characters and Grogu in the cockpit and open side panels. There's foldable landing ramps, 2 stud shooters, and a Sentry E-Web gun that does not shoot studs. 5 inches tall, about 12.5 inches long, and 9.5 inches wide when assembled. Then there is an AT-RT attack set for $45, not yet available, also coming April 26th in pre-order. Set 75444, 297 pieces. a dual stud-shooting AT-RT Walker, and a dual stud-shooting Imperial Remnant Defense Tower with 3 characters, an Imperial Remnant AT-RT driver, the Mandalorian, and Grogu. Hasbro's Pulse website has a lot of new offerings as well, and some are already sold out. These are not Legos, obviously. These are action figures from Hasbro. The Star Wars Vintage Collection Mos Eisley 4-pack for $75 is on the website, and it is no longer available. Labria, Arlyle, Shoos, Garandon, and a character not seen in A New Hope, the Wookiee Chalman. Also, Black Series Plo Koon and Clone Commander Wolf, 2 figures, 4 accessories, sold out already at a $56 price point. It would have shipped June 1st, but as soon as that thing got put out on the website, it was already sold out. A Black Series Lord Starkiller for $43 is sold out as well. 8 accessories, but not a removable helmet, apparently, and 6 of those accessories were lightsabers. And then there's a Misty and Cav 2-character set, also sold out. These are Stormtroopers from an Elite Task Force 99, not to be confused with Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch, not the Bad Batch. This Scar Squadron is from a comic run, and it is sold out at the $56 price point for 2 characters that I have to admit I've never heard of. Now, there are 8 vintage collection figures, and these are available. The 11th Brother, Crow, as we learned earlier, he's the 11th Brother, $20 for a vintage version of him. There's an Imperial Remnant Stormtrooper from the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, also $20. Both shipped June 1st of this year. And these are the 3 3/4 inch versions, remember. There's an Imperial Remnant AT-AT driver, shipping May 1st for $20. He comes with a blaster pistol. Then there's a character listed as IG-11 Navarro Marshal. But I don't remember IG-11 being a Marshal of Navarro. He was put back together and then blew himself up to save Navarro when it was still technically under Moff Gideon's control. He was put back together as a mech suit as IG-12 later by the Anzellans. And anyway, he's $20 and ships June 1st. As does the Vintage Collection Marrok. And it says it's a Maul Shadowlord version, but I'm starting to see conflicting messaging here. Is there an 11th Brother figure too? Which means Marrok may not then be the 11th Brother, because I just mentioned there's a 11th Brother Crow, $20 vintage version. So I don't know. I mean, we'll just have to wait until the show's out, and then we'll see. Imperial Remnant AT-RT with driver in pre-order for an April 1st shipping date, $68. Now, it comes with, it's the figure and the AT-RT. So, and it also comes with a stand, so you can pose it in mid-walk. So, again, vehicle and figure. That's why it's a little bit more money. Also shipping April 1st is the Mandalorian and Grogu Vintage Collection set for $28. A 3 3/4 inch scale Mando, which means it's a much smaller Grogu with 6 accessories: blades, rifle, jetpack, pistol, and pistol gripping hand. Then there's a 4-pack of Imperial Remnant Stormtroopers for $68, shipping on May the 1st. Each of them looks slightly different, so at least these are 4 unique figures with 6 accessories, 4 rifles, and 2 optional heavy blasters. And if you put 4 into 68, you get 15 plus a little bit, so it's like about $16 a piece for each character. I don't know if that's worth it. Then we've got some Black Series characters also in pre-order. There's a Black Series Imperial Remnant AT-RT driver, just 1 accessory, a blaster pistol, ships May 1st ahead of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Sigourney Weaver has a Star Wars figure with the Colonel Ward Black Series figure for $28, shipping on April 1st. Her accessory, a removable helmet, and she's dressed in pilot attire, so maybe we're going to see Ward in action in a cockpit at some point in the movie, in addition to her base cantina scene where she doesn't have that orange jumpsuit on that we see in the trailers. So there is a Black Series Imperial Remnant Stormtrooper that looks like one of the Vintage Collection troopers from the 4-pack, but it's more detailed, And at $28, it would cost you a bit more to get 4. It ships April 1st, has a blaster rifle, shoulder guard, and shoulder pouch that are removable. Then there's an Imperial Remnant AT-AT driver that is more detailed than a vintage version, and again, more expensive at $28 instead of the $20 vintage version. Still just one accessory, the blaster. Ships May 1st and is in pre-order now, just like the vintage one. Finally, shipping on April Fool's Day 2026 for $35, Black Series, The Mandalorian, and Grogu, and that is not enough for free shipping unless you are part of the Hasbro Pulse Premium Club. 6 accessories, a long and short blaster, dagger, jetpack, sword, and alternate hand. Grogu is about 1 inch and can be posed on Din Djarin's shoulder. Now, I won't be ordering it, but I will keep my eye out for a version in the stores.
Just one more thing.
Disney Parks news time. Josh D'Amaro is set to take over as CEO for Disney in mid-March, succeeding Bob Iger in a promotion from his current duties as chairman of Disney Experiences, which means he did oversee the parks. For a Harvard Business Review article by Marcus Buckingham, D'Amaro was shadowed by the researcher who noted the personal relationships D'Amaro has built throughout his rise through the company. D'Amaro was the VP of Animal Kingdom and oversaw the expansion of the park with the Pandora area. I remember seeing him on opening day of the Rise of the Resistance ride at Hollywood Studios in Florida. From 2017 to 2020, he rose from CCO of Walt Disney World Resort, president of Disneyland Park in California, and back to Florida to become president of the Disney World Resorts. When Bob Chapek succeeded Iger in 2020 as CEO for a little time before his ouster, D'Amaro rose to chairman of Disney Experiences, and that's where he is today. And he's taking over in a few weeks. That means he's been overseeing all Disney parks all across the globe, including overseeing the building of the one in Dubai. Buckingham made many references to interactions that he witnessed between D'Amaro and cast members, and if the ones he mentioned are true, it would seem he's got a lot of fans in the company's workforce. Now, why am I mentioning this changing of the guard? Now, if you're a Star Wars fan, which by listening here I bet you are, you want to know how he's going to lead the company as it relates to Star Wars. We just had Dave Filoni and Lin-Manuel Brennan taking over at Lucasfilm. So now we have a change at the top. And the guy coming in has been responsible for years for things like Galaxy's Edge. Well, there's that planned update to the Smuggler's Run ride we've heard about that is in tandem with the upcoming Mandalorian and Grogu movie. D'Amaro could have just had an update to what riders see on screen and, change the screens and the scripts. Instead, it seems like there's more coming. Since it opened, the ride has had 2 pilots, 2 gunners, and 2 engineer spaces. But if you've ridden that ride, you want to be the pilot more than anything else. Buckingham told of a meeting he was privy to with 30 Imagineers and operators where a redesign of Smuggler's Run was discussed. He quotes D'Amaro as saying, "Guests like it, but they don't love it." And that doesn't seem to be enough for him. The redesign seeks to address it by making it so no one ends up just being a passenger princess of Alderaan. They are working on making sure every rider has agency and influence on the outcome. Now, why is that great? Now, if you're a Star Wars fan and you're with a child, the kid is usually going to get to be one of the pilots. Now, even if they are a little bit older child, now if the pilot performs poorly and runs the Millennium Falcon into stuff, the story will have to skip segments. There's pre-planned dialogue, and then speedy completion of those segments gives you more scenes because all of the rides are timed out to about the same. The ride is on rails, but it's timed out. So this change would be great. Part of the challenge is there's a long wait time. So if you're riding for the 5th or 6th time, you are still not guaranteed to be able to get a different job if you don't get pilot. It took me that many tries to be able to ride in the pilot spot, and even then, I only got to control one aspect of the piloting, and the child to my left basically bumped us against all the walls and the ceilings the whole time, meaning we didn't capture all of the coaxium we could have during the run. The redesign is set for May in conjunction with the movie release. That's a pretty short time frame. This is the kind of hands-on approach, though, to keeping Galaxy's Edge enjoyable I don't know that we've seen. It's worth noting This could have happened sooner since he's been chairman of Disney Experiences in the park for several years, but at least it's getting done. Doing nothing and letting the land get stale would be so much worse. Tomorrow seemingly doesn't want guests just to like the ride. He wants them to love it. And the closing quote to that article from February 12th says, Disney is a delicate brand. Anything I can do to help more guests say they love Disney is a valuable use of my time. I agree. Now, can we convince them to bring back the 3 fast pass rule? You know, you could still charge for the even quicker lightning lane experience, but can we at least get those 3 fast pass back?
I think we can let him off with a warning this time.
If you think I've missed something or disagree with me, send email to thisisthewaypodcast@gmail.com. How else can you interact with This Is The Way Podcast? X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Usually at This Is The Way Pod is our handle. There's also a Discord server for the podcast, but I'm not active on there, really. Not yet. We've reached our newest segment now.
Luminous beings, Zoe, not this crude matter.
And it's This Is The Word. It's my chance to get creative and tie a real-world Bible verse into the Star Wars universe. And the Bible verse this month is Ephesians 5:8. For at one time you were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light.
This is the way.
Now this verse captures something profound about salvation. It's not just about getting better or trying hard. It's about a real, radical change in your life. Because of sin, we were truly in darkness, under its power, shaped by it, but through faith in Christ, God transfers us into light. We're not the same people anymore. The command to live as children of light then flows naturally from that. Our choices daily, our words, our actions should all reflect this new reality as we grow. Now you consider Anakin Skywalker's story, and in the prequels we see him start as a promising young man, but fear, anger, and pride gradually pull him deeper into darkness until he fully gives himself to becoming Darth Vader, someone who embodies that domain of shadow and evil. This is even before he's more machine than man. Yet, in Return of the Jedi, everything changes in the throne room scene on the Death Star. He's regaining his humanity. Luke's unwavering love and refusal to give in to hatred reaches his father. And in a final sacrificial act, Vader lifts the Emperor, casts him down the shaft, destroys the source of that darkness, even as it costs him his life. Anakin was once darkness, basically a slave to it. Through his redemption, though, he became light again. Luke's journey shows the other side, what it looks like to live as a children of the light. The change happened, but from the start, he's called to trust something greater than himself. On Dagobah, in the cave, he confronts that darkness within, and then learns that giving into fear and anger only strengthens it. He chooses mercy over vengeance, even when that seems impossible. His consistent walk, resisting temptation, holding to truth, depending on guidance beyond his own strength in Obi-Wan and Yoda, all that illustrates the ongoing call to live out the light that we are given. Anakin's Force Ghost, standing redeemed alongside Obi-Wan and Yoda. Remember I said he became the light again? It reminds us, true redemption restores us to fellowship in the light. And yes, I do prefer the original old Anakin version, though I don't get upset when they show the Hayden Christensen version. I just prefer the original. But in both Vader's dramatic turnaround and Luke's steady faithfulness, there's an example that we can see where darkness and light aren't actually balanced forces, but opposing realities. Balance comes from accepting that darkness is part of the universe, not embracing it. That's what so many of the new content creators seem to be getting wrong. The balance is not accepting the dark. The move from darkness to light is decisive, personal, life-changing, just like the gospel truth that Paul lays out in Ephesians 5:8.
He speaks the truth.
Thank you so much for joining me today for This Is The Way Podcast's February 2026 News Update episode. And thanks again for being part of This Is The Way Podcast's audience. I'm your host, Steve Lascalzo. May the Force be with you, always.